the collaborations in mining for mutual benefits. My name is Priscilla Regina Deloga. Welcome to our Tech Note. Now, the backbone of it is that despite the COVID-19 pandemic, you do have foreign direct investment inflow into Uganda that has upped from $807 million in 2017 to $927 million in 2020, and in 2021, $1.14 billion, attributing this to the progression of stable and consistent microeconomic policies. You also do attribute it to the liberalized business environment, and of course Uganda being a regional logistics hub, as the country is looking for joint ventures that could invest northwards of $500 million in iron ore mining and processing. Now, Uganda-South Africa Trade Summit has been organized to boost trade and investment, and this of course was confirmed recently by President Museveni, saying Uganda should focus on what she can export to South Africa. I am joined by the General Manager, Corporate Sanlam General Insurance, to speak to us on that regard. You're most welcome, Mr. Brian Kaima.
Thank you very much, Priscilla, for having me. Good morning, everyone. I would like to start my remarks with a congratulations to all Ugandans. I had to mention Joshua Cheptegei. He won gold third time in a row at the World Championship, and that's no mean feat. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Now, as we journey on into investments, it's an earlier conversation that we're looking at investment funds for us here in Uganda. We want to better understand what's the trade relationship currently that we have with South Africa as a country. Okay,
thank you, Priscilla. I'll just speak a bit briefly into what Sanlam is and what we contribute to Uganda. So, Sanlam is an insurance company. We started in South Africa about a century ago. We mainly deal in general insurance, life insurance, and investments. What we do in South Africa is the same as what we do in Uganda. So we provide tailor-made insurance products to the mining and extractive sector. One of the key issues that we have with businesses is that you can't do business when you don't feel confident that the investments that you're putting will be protected. So that's where we come in as insurance providers. We are the backbone of the mining and extractive sector in that way.
Okay, yes. And what's the status between Uganda and South Africa regarding the mining sector? Because I know that in South Africa it's quite a big thing. For us in Uganda, it's still a growing entity.
Yes. Okay, so many South African players have participated in mining and extractives indirectly through banking, through insurance. Recently, the Ugandan government announced that we had discovered mineral deposits of up to $12 trillion. So, the fact that it's still very small in Uganda means that there's a lot that we can benefit from the likes of from South Africa. They've achieved a lot of growth through sustainable mining. There's so much that Ugandan companies can tap from that opportunity. And with the summit coming up, I'm sure that the Ugandan companies that will participate in that summit will have a lot to learn.
Okay. Yeah. Speaking of the summit, give us more details about the Uganda-South Africa summit.
Okay. So this summit was I think we had the first summit in Cape Town earlier this year. And this is the follow-up summit on the Ugandan side. This summit is mainly sponsored by MTN. Sanlam is one of the key sponsors as well. We are looking at having the two heads of states, the South African head of state, the Ugandan head of state. They are, and inviting over 300 dignitaries from both countries. Many big companies will be represented, both in South Africa and in Uganda. There will be chances for Ugandan companies to partner with South African companies. Those that had always dreamt of, working with companies like De Beers, all these big South African corporates, many of them will be represented. So they'll be looking at how they can best contribute to the Ugandan economy and how Uganda can best contribute to the South African economy. Earlier I was making remarks that, we have so many South African companies that are doing business in Uganda. But I think you can hardly count Ugandan companies that are doing business in South Africa. So it should be, we should be able to do what the South Africans have done in Uganda. We as the Ugandans, we should be able to start companies that, that will export to South Africa. And I think this conference will unlock so many doors.
Okay, speaking of unlocking, which companies do you expect to actually turn up for the summit, especially on the Ugandan side? Which sectors are you looking at?
Okay, from the Ugandan side, I'm sure we will be looking agriculture, of course. Being that agriculture is the backbone of the Ugandan economy, we'll expect so much in agriculture. Oil and gas, we have so many subcontractors that have recently been awarded contracts, and I'm sure many of them will want to be part of that. The fact that we are getting experience here in Uganda means that we can export the same to South Africa. I'm sure we'll be looking at technology. Uganda is a young country. We have a very high population of educated people that's good at technology. So I'm sure that is something where we can export, and many other industries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know that the focal point, of course, is on mining, and while it's potentially a lucrative sector here in Uganda, I know that there's some interventions from entities that need to be adopted, perhaps copy and paste from South Africa, that could build and boost mining here in Uganda. Which are some of those interventions? Okay,
now, of late, the world is talking of ESG concerns. We need sustainable investments. So South Africa has reached where it has because they've considered some of those practices. We have a very big population of artisanal miners in Uganda. So much of the mining and extractive sector is not yet formalized. South Africa is different. They've formalized their mining sector. They formalized much of their industry. So of course it has widened their tax base, and we can do the same in Uganda. Sustainable practices, I think that's the key take that that South African companies will be able to train us here, what will be able to benefit.
All right. So back to the summit. When is it going to be happening? Do you already have a list of the delegates, or is it some open to someone to apply?
So the summit is in September, and I'm sure if you go to the MTN website, you'll be able to see the dates. It's there's a lot of publicity going on with that. I can't say who the delegates are, but I know that there are about 350 delegates. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's please check out I think the MTN website. There's a link there where you can RSVP.
Okay.
Yeah.
In regards to South Africa's investments here in Uganda, what other sectors have they comfortably penetrated and had sustainable business over the course of time?
Okay, so South Africa has invested a lot in technology in Uganda. Yeah, I think that's the biggest, technology and banking. On the extractives, I think because Uganda hasn't, it's still a young industry, we haven't seen so much investments. But, given that we just recently discovered that $12 trillion, I'm sure every investor out there is wondering, what's this? What Ugandan companies can I work with to exploit this resource? So I'm sure the extractive sector will be top of minds of the investors that come to Uganda.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as Sanlam General Insurance, how are you positioning yourselves to actually help Ugandans tap into these potentials?
Okay, that's a very good question. Recently, after the final investment decision for oil and gas was announced, we saw several Ugandan companies, bidding for subcontractor to be subcontractors of the oil and gas industry. In the past, many Ugandan companies weren't able to even bid because they didn't have the insurance policies, they didn't have the muscle to purchase guarantees. So as Sanlam, we decided to help Ugandan companies, by creating products that would suit them and that were affordable. So that helped many Ugandan companies become subcontractors. Mm-hmm. So it improved their local contents. I think we have more than 10 local companies as subcontractors, tier 2 and tier 3 in the oil and gas sector, and we can do the same. We provide cover for all the stages of the mining and extractive sector. That is all the way from feasibility studies to planning, exploration, and then finally decommissioning. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Brian, in your closing remarks.
Okay, so I'm very happy about, thank you for inviting me, and I'm happy that Ugandans are interested in this summit. I look forward to Ugandan companies doing business in South Africa. I think that's how we'll know that this has succeeded, is if we see more Ugandan companies doing business in South Africa. Yeah, we look forward to learning as much as we can, and as the South African companies in Uganda, we look forward to giving back to the country.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And that is Mr. Brian Kaima, who is the General Manager Corporate with Sanlam General Insurance, giving you confidence that they've got you covered as far as insurance is concerned for Ugandans that want to tap into the market, especially as far as mining is concerned. It's a lucrative business that is upcoming. President has committed lots of money into it and lots of support from the government to enable that to be boosted. But of course, the comment that has come in from Mr. Kaima here is that we've got to formalize the sector in the first place. So, of course, when you look at the Uganda-South Africa summit, those are going to be some of the conversations in there. Well, we do have a birthday